Good morning, all. I, Dr. Punita Pathak, and today I'm going to present before you JOHAN Galtung and violence triangle in conflict theory, which is a very important topic in peace and conflict studies. So, before going into the detail of the violence triangle, quickly I will discuss with you all the brief introduction of Johan Vincent Galtung. He is a Norwegian sociologist and he's also known as the father of peace studies. He has developed an academic understanding of peace building. During his career, that is more than 70 years, he authored and co-authored more than 1600 articles and over 160 books related to peace issues. He was also the main founder of PRIO, that is Peace Research Institute Oslo, in 1959, and he also served as its first director until 1970. He also established the Journal of Peace Research in 1964, and in 1969 he was appointed to the world's first chair in peace and conflict studies at the University of Oslo. Now, quickly, we will see his major contribution. So, here we can see that he is known for his concepts of structural violence and cultural violence, which we will discuss in the violence triangle. He is also known for his contribution as positive and negative peace. So, before the positive peace, the meaning of peace was just about the absence of war, conflict, violence, etc. And that was actually understood as the meaning of peace, the condition of peace. But it was termed in 1960s, Johan Galtung termed this peace as a negative peace, and further he added one more important aspect of this peace as positive peace, and he defined this positive peace as what, that it is filled with positive content such as the restoration of relationship, the creation of social systems that need that serve the needs of the whole of the population, and the constructive resolution of peace. And here he added that peace doesn't mean the total absence of any conflict, it means the absence of violence in all forms and the unfolding of conflict in a constructive way. He has also initiated the transcend method of conflict management. Before this, the traditional method of conflict management was just about A wins, B loses, B wins, A loses, and the solution. And here, the solution is postponed because neither A nor B feels ready to end the conflict. And here, a confused compromise is reached where neither A nor B are happy with. Both A and B feel that if they win by focusing on their basic needs, and it was also added by Johan Galtung. Now we will come to his concept of violence, and then we will discuss the violence triangle. So normally violence means, or violence indicates towards the visible force and destruction, but Johan Galtung extended the meaning concept of violence, and here he said that violence arises when human beings behavior and actions are being influenced so that their actual somatic and mental realizations are below to their potential realizations. And violence is here defined as the cause of the difference which arises when there is a difference between the potential and the actual, or as between what could have been and what is. So violence is that which increases the distance between the potential and the actual. That's why here it is being mentioned as the gap between the, violence arises when there is a gap between the potential and the actual, and it also disturbs the decrease of this distance. Fine. So here he has also, we can also see some of the examples like due to the tuberculosis, if someone is dying in 18th century, so at that time it was a kind of unavoidable a situation, because that time such measures were not invented. But today if someone is dying from tuberculosis, so that is actually an instance of violence, because it is totally avoidable. And if someone is dying from that this disease, so it means he or she was unable to access these facilities. Another example, we can see that dying at the age of 30 during the Neolithic age, that time it was quite okay. But today, if someone is dying at the age of 30, so it would be an instance of violence. And what kind of violence? That comes under the structural violence. So here we can see that Johann Galtung tried to define this meaning of violence through these examples. Further, we can see that the potential level of realization is that which is possible with a given level of insight and resources. And if insight and resources are monopolized by a group or class or are used for other purposes, then the actual level falls below the potential level, and that is the condition when violence comes into the system. Additionally, he talked about that these types of indirect violence, there is also the direct violence where means of realization are not only withheld but it was also obstructed or directly destroyed. So here we can see that Johann Galtung, in this regard, we can see that Johann Galtung explained violence in terms of its three dimensions. Firstly, the direct violence, then structural violence, and the cultural violence. And he suggested that these dimensions of violence can be depicted as the three arms or corners of a triangle, which we can see through this triangle graph. So now quickly we will see that what is direct violence. So direct violence, which has an actor who intends hurt and harm. And here intended is very important. Johann Galtung mentioned that this intended is here very important, and usually this direct violence is short and quick and sometimes lethal too, sometimes not, but it is what is important here, that it is intended. So now we will move towards the another type, that is the structural violence. And here he said that structural violence, which is the in a social system, a social structure and grinding of suffering. Johann Galtung talked about the capitalist system does or done by the authoritarian regimes as it hits people at the most vulnerable points, and Galtung addressed these vulnerable points as basic needs. So they can hit the wellness, health, and so here mercy at the bottom of society. For instance, people die of hunger, diseases, and these are totally preventable and curable, but they won't able to access is due to the structure. So the structure is made in such a way that they are just the helpless victims of this process of the system, or politically deprived of their freedom. Here Galtung also mentioned that they are set on the monochromatic, so to speak, track with no choices, they much less than they could be, or even their identities taken away from them in given another and been given another identity. As an instance, we can see the conditions of Hawaiians at the times of the when the Americans trying to monopolize this region. So here the structural violence is not intended, but it is caused by very important concept, not the actual commissions but the act of omission. These are the words of Johann Galtung as he mentioned. And here the condition of maintaining this system, a kind of structural violence condition, it is that nobody does anything about it, so we let it happen, and even it is assumed it as normal. Everybody takes this situation as a normal situation. Further, we can see that the instructional violence, it is built into the social structure. Societies are made up of system, and these systems include laws, institutionally established for enforcing these norms, economic systems such as the market, social inter relationships, religious institutions and their workings, as well as in many cases institutions of the army. So everything is built up in that way. So these systems interact with each other to create complex relationships of power, and here we can measure power in terms of access to resources, decision making, opportunities, and here it is also possible that the structure of a society are such that they result in the marginalization of certain groups, and they are being discriminated against other group, and these results in the infringement of their rights. And such violence is not always intended, it is a product of the existing structure of a society, and here Galtung uses the term social injustice to explain the structural violence. Now we will move towards the third corner of this violence triangle, that is cultural violence. And cultural violence here refers to the prevailing attitudes or beliefs used to legitimize violence of direct or cultural nature, and these includes the prejudices or stereotypes which is existing in the society and which have been internalized by the people, by the individuals. The stereotypes find expression in the interactions people have with each other. And here we can also see that according to Johann Galtung, we can also see that cultural violence are the aspects of culture which legitimizes one or the other or both of the other two, social Darwinism that sees sickness as God's punishment, nationalism to justify direct violence, or the US exceptionalism to somehow make Americans believe that they not only a right to start killing in Iraq, but even a duty to do so. So we have a triangle with three types of violence that feed into each other. So Galtung suggested that these three forms of violence feed and reinforce each other, while direct violence is visible, structural and cultural violence are not overtly visible in the society, which we have also seen in the triangle graph, where we can see this triangle in which we can see that this direct violence is quite visible in the society, whereas the cultural violence and the structural violence is totally invisible in the society. So that is all about today's topic. Thank you all for your patient listening. Thank you.